Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. I hope you had a good weekend. It would have been busy, nevertheless, in terms of news, because we're talking about the great, shall we call it, the Twitter imbroglio that sort of erupted over the weekend. My guest this morning, one of them at least, is Mr. Curtis Adigba, lawyer and political consultant. As always, good morning, Curtis.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Indeed.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Thank you very, very much for coming on. And we actually will be joined, that is to say, Curtis is in studio right next to me. We also will be joined remotely by a couple of other friends, Majid Jamil. Majid Jamil is executive editor, Upshot Reports. Let me see if I can see Majid. There you go. Good morning, Majid. Great to have you. Thank you.
Good morning, Yori.
Thank you.
And good morning, our viewers.
Yeah. And, all the way from Texas via Zoom, I can see the dashing figure of Modukwe Ajibola there. Hey, good morning, Modukwe. This time it's remote. Last time it was in the studio.
Yes,
a little
sir.
while ago. Okay,
yes,
good to have you, gentlemen. As I said, is it the Twitter imbroglio? The federal government of Nigeria took a stance as regards Twitter. And since then, the conversation has been raging. Let's take this package that first went out on Saturday on our station. It gives us background.
Social media is buzzing from an outrage caused by the federal government's shutdown of Twitter in Nigeria. Now there is a new normal on the internet. 61% out of the 33 million active social media users in the country will be disconnected from Twitter. The face-off between Nigeria, giant of Africa, and Twitter, a social media giant, started with the tweets that was flagged and deleted for flouting community rules on the microblogging site. The federal government's reprisal now has far-reaching effects and might significantly affect the digital economy. Ademola Adetono and Oluwatoba Olalekon both own their own digital marketing strategy companies registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission. This Twitter ban is like an attack on their livelihood.
Because one man is offended, a lot of people will pay the price. The same content that was shared across Twitter and Facebook, which violated both platforms' policies, it was taken down on both platforms. But they choose to take it up with Twitter, and you know that our government is the government that keeps malice. They will not forget.
The digital industry will definitely have a setback because people will be scared to actually invest their fortune or their hard-earned money into tech because of probably tomorrow government will just wake up and start a new policy that will probably crash it.
Data from the National Bureau of Statistics published in the first quarter of this year indicates that the ICT sector is like the goose that lays the golden egg. The drop in oil contribution to the GDP was significantly covered by ICT.
The sector in the fourth quarter of 2020 grew by 14.70%. Followed by another sector which was occupied by the second position, which grew by 3.41%. This is 14.70%, followed by another sector, 3.41%. Look at the gap.
Digital technologies are now used to drive innovation, fuel job opportunities, and economic growth.
It's a country that is, struggling to keep its economy together in the last 5 years. The economy has gone into recession twice in the last 5 years. Unemployment have quadrupled in the last 5 years, and now you are taking access to Twitter away from people. It shows that you want a lot of people, millions of young people, to be jobless because you have social media influencers, you have social media marketers, you have social media strategists, you have PR companies, you have bloggers, you have multinationals, you have tech companies, you have a lot of companies hiring people to handle their social media. Social media marketing has become a huge industry, even in Nigeria.
The United Nations in 2016 declared that online freedom is a human right and one that must be protected. Though not enforceable, the UN resolution means so much for countries actively working to curb corruption and gain credibility with their citizens. Pelumi Olajengbesi, a lawyer and rights activist, believes the Twitter ban is an infringement on human rights.
Government can decide to pull out of Twitter. Government can decide not to use Twitter again. Buhari can choose not to use Twitter. Anybody can choose to use Twitter and not to use Twitter. But the most important thing is that government is actually wrong. It's constitutional. Is an infringement on the right of the Nigerian people to stop people from operating Twitter. And I'm also concerned, I'm worried, because there are news all over the place that beyond the ban, that government is making effort to even arrest characters who are still on Twitter, but until then.
Twitter has become an increasingly relevant tool in domestic and international politics. The platform has also become a way to promote policies and interact with citizens and other officials. In Nigeria, citizens and government may be considering other alternatives to engage on social media. Already, the First Lady has deleted her Twitter account, an action perceived to be in solidarity with her husband and the federal government. President Muhammadu Buhari's verified Twitter account is still active. Also, the Twitter account of the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture used to announce the ban on Twitter has not been deactivated. But online, the protest against the federal government heats up. Hashtag Keep It On, created by Twitter in protest against the federal government's ban, is now at the top of Nigeria trends online. Femi Akonde, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, so sufficient kind of a bird's eye view of the situation where we are at now. So I'm going to be asking my guests in turn. Curtis in the studio, Majid and Modupe are remote. Curtis, you first. Give me your impressions over the imbroglio. I might just add that there was a bit of a confusion when the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, spoke about this whole action. He had spoke of an indefinite Twitter ban.
Suspension.
An indefinite suspension, thank you. And when Garba Shehu was to speak about it, he was to refer to it as a temporary suspension. So, first of all, what do you think about the entire scenario?
Well, there are a lot of miscommunication or semantics about the action and intention of government. But what is not in doubt is that government wants to temporarily halt the operation of Twitter in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And that is not sitting well with some Nigerians, but I can also tell you there are a lot of Nigerians who are in support of that move. And so, again, it's
you know, as to the why, why did this happen? I don't know. When you look at what Lai Mohammed said, and also later on what Garba Shehu said, Garba Shehu's tone was about he feels that Twitter doesn't quite understand the challenges of running a country like Nigeria, and so it wasn't sympathetic. But as he was putting it, he was feeling that this could be worked out. He referred to it as a temporary ban. Alhaji Lai Mohammed, on the other hand, was saying that we have a country to govern. And anybody who is going to be making that job more complex than it needs to be, so we can't take it.
I'm going to say some things here that will not be convenient to a lot of people.
You think so? You don't know.
Look, but here's the truth of the matter. Every time there is a contest between emotion and reason, emotion will win. Because emotion is a natural thing.
Okay.
People don't
Now, when we're talking about emotion, just in case anybody, for some reason, is just hearing about this whole thing this morning on our program.
It's just a spontaneous reaction.
Yeah, but you're talking about, you're speaking about Twitter taking down a tweet of President Buhari.
Let me finish my thought.
Right? So
that I am not specific about.
No, but I just wanted to.
Mr. Rick, please, can I finish my thought?
Yeah, but I was trying to put it in context of what happens to lead to what.
What is your question? I want to understand so that I can get myself.
Yes, I just wanted to provide the background, but you can. I had asked you, what do you think of it, and I just sought to provide the reason.
Yeah, and I was just making an introductory comment to get to the point where I was going. That sometimes we will react based on emotion without looking at the issues. People must understand that first and foremost, Nigeria is a sovereign nation with rules that guides its operation, okay? And one of those rules is that those who lead the country have a duty to protect the national security of this country. Yes, they might be feeling, or there's a lot of pervasive insecurity in the country, and people are complaining about that. But they cannot allow other situations that will compound what we already have. And this is how I view the issue of Twitter. Twitter is a private company. I think we must understand that. A private company that was taken public in the United States. It is set up by some few people. All you need to do to get on Twitter is to download the app and do all that. Now, if Twitter, a private company, has the right to censor people, organizations who are on it, right? Why does a country, a sovereign country with rules, why does Nigeria not have the right to censor Twitter? Nigeria is displeased with certain behavior by Twitter. Don't forget that Twitter is an American company with presence in over 200, presence in 200 countries and territories, but it has offices in only 35 countries of the world where it pays taxes. Twitter is not in this country, but Twitter has played an outsized role in the affairs of this country. During the NSAS protests, the chief executive of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, was tweeting and asking people to contribute bitcoins to support the protests in the country. In international law or international politics, where two countries, I'm talking about two sovereign countries, interacting with each other, if a country finds that another country is interfering unlawfully in our own affairs, it can even decide to cut off diplomatic relationship with that country. Here we're talking about a country and a non-state actor that does not enjoy that equal sovereignty status with the country, interfering, and that same country is protected back home in the United States by the Communications Decency Act of 1996, Section 230, that says it is not liable for contents that are published on a platform. And people just expect that a small company like Twitter with outsized influence in global affairs can allow tweets that will blow up the country.
Okay.
And then the Nigerian government that has a country to run cannot respond and say, Twitter, we are a country, we want you to come register with us and obey our rules.
Indeed.
And people are just looking at it from the point of view of freedom of expression.
Okay.
If Twitter believes in freedom of expression, why does Twitter delete people's tweets on this website?
Because it says it has guidelines.
It
has the guidelines.
And so Nigeria does not have guidelines for companies that should operate in our territory?
Let me take thank you. Majid, let me take your view on, give me your impressions, if you will, please, on the situation here. Twitter claiming infringement of their guidelines, therefore removing the president's tweet, and the rest, the rest of the story.
Yes, I think I'll disagree a bit with my friend in the studio, Curtis.
Okay, Mr. Digba.
Yeah, I would have expected the federal government to sue Twitter, for using its platform to inflame the already endangered space that we have in Nigeria, because rather than reacting by suspending or banning Twitter, as it were, because now the Attorney General even took it a further notch by saying that those who disobey the federal government by still using Twitter will be taken to court. And I asked, under which law will that happen? And under which section of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will that happen? Now, yeah, no doubt, he mentioned the fact that Twitter took positions during the NSAS protest in Nigeria last year. Yeah, and also Twitter too has left some statements unchecked. Unlike what he did in the case of Donald Trump, I mean, there are so many comments, tweets on Twitter that threatens the sovereignty of the country, so to say, coming from a lot of people and groups. Those tweets are still on their platform. They have done nothing about it. However, Yoruba will say cutting off the head is not a solution to headache, even if that headache becomes a migraine. So I expect that, we have had situations where other platforms like Facebook, Google have been taken to court in other crimes, and they have suffered severe blows in terms of punitive measures, damages that they were made to pay, running to millions or billions of dollars at times. The federal government ought to have taken that kind of position, from the office of the Attorney General of the Federation, and also the Ministry of Information, rather than, an outright suspension of hand. Actually, this morning, because I use one of the VPNs, I can't access my Twitter account any longer today. Which means the private, the telecom firms have actually effected that ban fully. So, this is the debate that is ongoing, but...
Okay, so you're saying, what you're saying, Majid, do you think that the federal government, they overreacted at that?
Yes, it's an overreaction.
Okay.
Yes, let
me take it from Modupe Ajibola. Modupe Ajibola, your view on this action of government?
Yes, thank you for having me. One of the things that what I'm hearing on the program right now is disheartening to imagine that we're separating the social, political, and economical impact of this type of reaction by any government. Talk less of the Nigerian government that has a people, by the way, that have zero access to militarization or weaponization. These people have nothing but their voice to state their opinion, just voice. So if a government that has military that is empowered to rule over the people must speak, they must speak so gingerly to the people because they have the power to undo the people, and the people are giving them that power. So with great power comes great responsibility. So when you're a government and you have rhetoric that you're saying on social media, it has to be taken more seriously than when citizens are just venting. Citizens can vent all day. They have no way to make good on their promises most times. But government does have ways to make good on the promise to undo people. So that's why Twitter decided to take down such comments that can make certain factions of the country feel empowered to start doing wrong to another group of people, because they know government backing means total annihilation of whoever else is involved. So let's not be even-handed on how we're looking at government power to speak versus the people's power to speak. That's one thing. The second thing is the issue of the economic impact of this. We have 40 million Nigerians on Twitter. Up to date, 2.1 billion naira in the cost of shutting down these platforms. The so-called youths that are unemployed and all these issues we have in Nigeria are compounded by this act of the government that would, and you know what happens with poverty, what happens with illiteracy, what happens with underrepresentation. It is the very thing you're fighting, talking about people protesting and fighting, that you are now creating a catalyst for. So government cannot be superfluous in their reaction to minor citizens or shut down platforms that they have not created. So in Nigeria, you have to, somebody comes and says,
sorry, you know that they can't shut down Twitter and didn't try to shut down Twitter, but it's a matter of not being able to connect to Twitter in Nigeria. In other words, Nigeria is opting out of Twitter.
That's what I mean. Like you cannot criminalize 4 million citizens for accessing a platform that you yourself has used to the benefit of communicating with your people, because you have not created an alternative. You, the government, are supposed to create avenues for your people to connect with you and the world, but you have not created that, and now you're about to shut down one that is created. It's just disingenuous. It's not right.
Swinging back to Curtis in studio.
So I understand what my the two gentlemen are saying. The first didn't that?
Majid said.
Majid and I agreed to a point, but the difference is how government responded. He said the government should have taken them to court. Don't forget, government has got a lot of options. They chose the one that they think will be most effective. And that, of course, has gotten Twitter to act by deleting some other tweets.
Yes,
that they never saw
tweets
anything
that they
wrong
hadn't
with.
seen anything wrong with earlier, they now begin to do it.
The second guy is talking about the economic impact and the criminalization.
Okay.
I don't understand where...
That's Mr. Ajibola.
I don't understand where the criminalization of 40 million Nigerians happened by the decision of the government. And then when you talk about power, the power structure, how can you say that individuals who tweet violence encourage others to go out, attack the police, kill soldiers, burn down government institutions, and these things are beginning to happen in the country? How can you say that is nothing compared to what government can do? And if government then hints at taking reprisal action against these same people, it's offensive. How does Twitter go about this system where similar tweets with almost kind of similar intentions, they'll put down one and keep the other in place because a vocal minority complained against that?
Okay.
Hold on, sir. What is the problem with the problem that Nigerians are looking at it from the point of view of right to expression? First of all, Twitter is not the only avenue that Nigerians can express themselves. President Trump took the decision in the United States that TikTok, a Chinese company based in America, is a threat to the security of America and that they should be shut down or sold to an American company. Where was the outrage?
Okay.
Can I make a quick response to that?
Go ahead, Modukwe.
The outrage was in the process, in the due process that Trump even had to go through to get it done. Not an overnight thing, that's one. Secondarily, I do agree, nobody should, the separatist group or whoever they call themselves, should not be allowed to run free, making statements that are antagonizing or putting other people to arms. But if you look at the rhetoric and the actions, the so-called groups are not the ones that are actually killing Nigerians across the country. So where's government outrage about those that are killing Nigerians across and how they're dealing with that, as opposed to those that are just venting and wasting their time, not actually having no ability to make any impact.
Yeah.
So that's what Nigerians are looking at and saying, look, be outraged about those that are really killing us. These people are just a faction that are just running their mouth. Yes, find whichever one you need to find, penalize them, prosecute them, but don't prosecute the whole country.
Let me stay with you because it's a bit on the technical side. What do you make of the knowledge that we're hearing that Twitter acted because many Nigerians flagged the comment as offensive, and that if there hadn't been that number of Nigerians, Twitter probably wouldn't have noticed?
There you go. That is the kingpin of everything we're talking about here. That government can also go and flag issues and work with Twitter to flag these agitators so that they can be removed or banned from the system accordingly.
Okay.
But the government is taking such a position as if they're bigger than the people. No, you and the people are evenly matched.
All right, I hear you. It's Majid's turn now. Majid, so, you know, in addition, whatever you wanted to say here, in addition, government has indicated, well, apart from the Attorney General saying that if you use Twitter, they should prosecute you and all of that. That's on the one hand. I don't know how that's going to work. But then they've also said that they should begin the process for OTT operations, over-the-top operations, I understand is what these platforms are called, for their licensing. So conceivably, if I understand it correctly, Facebook, Twitter, Twitter is already in a situation. Facebook, WhatsApp, what else? Instagram, those guys are going to have to apply for licenses, and it doesn't mean that you will get it just because you applied. Go on, Majid.
Yes, it's not only in Nigeria that these social media platforms have been regulated. In United Arab Emirates, for example, you can use WhatsApp calls, and in China, as big as China is, you can use Facebook in China. So,
even WhatsApp, I believe WhatsApp, but they have their own you know, alternative.
They have WeChat.
Snapchat.
They have WeChat.
They have WeChat in China. So they created their own. So I expect that in Nigeria too, we can create our own while ensuring that these social media platforms are effectively regulated. For example, Facebook has about 56.5 million users in Nigeria. I mean, 56.5%, which is the highest when you combine it with WhatsApp, because Facebook and WhatsApp, they are the same. Now, Twitter is just about 25.2%, which is about 40 million. Facebook is about 85 million users in Nigeria, but it's more regulated.
And WhatsApp is the largest, I hear.
Yes, no, I mean, Facebook and WhatsApp, I mean, they are combined together.
Yeah, but WhatsApp, the main difference being that it's a closed network.
Yes, it's a closed network. Now, I mean, that they are owned by the same, they account for about 56%. That's why it's so large. With Twitter coming a distant second with about 25.2%, and Pinterest and Instagram in that order. So, but these other platforms are more regulated. You see Facebook even issuing warnings to certain posts.
Yeah.
I mean, before your account, I mean, and if there's a report on your account, I mean, your account could be suspended. Unlike Twitter, even the owner, like Curtis said, has taken a position, especially in the case of Nigeria. So it has been an issue that's building up, and the federal government has been looking at an opportunity. And now, just recently, Twitter took its corporate office in Africa to Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the federal government sees that as a slap. I mean, although Twitter can decide to take its headquarters or representative office in a region to anywhere, but Nigeria, I mean, sees that, I mean, as an affront. And so a combination of events led to the decision to suspend. But like I said earlier, I'll still go back to that point. We need more regulation for more laws that Twitter is not registered in Nigeria, for example.
Yes.
And Facebook, for example, it has empowered more Nigerians to the extent that Mark Zuckerberg came to Nigeria, sees Nigeria as an interested concern, where it's making money
and a viable partner,
doing a lot of empowerment in Nigeria. Twitter is not doing that. Rather, Twitter is engaging in actions that could further cause more problem for us in Nigeria.
You know what, Majid? I'm going to have to interrupt now. I beg your pardon, Majid. I'm going to have to interrupt now just because I wanted to go on a quick break. But stay with us, please. Majid and Modupe and Curtis. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. And that Twitter ban is what we're talking about. Government has, suspended. One official, the minister has said indefinitely. Another official has said temporarily. And the whole point of it is, regulation. At the end of the day, it has felt that there is a need now. Now, as a fallout of all of this, OTT operators, that is over-the-top operators, which I understand includes all those people we know as social media, are now going to have to actually be licensed. So let's go from there.
Mr. Yori, I think people are missing out on the key issue here. That is the power of Nigeria as a sovereign nation to register entities that want to operate in Nigeria if they are willing to obey the rules of this country. Just imagine for a moment that Twitter is a Nigerian company and is doing business. Would the United States government allow Twitter to just come in and do what Twitter is doing in Nigeria without regulation? That's one point. Now, the second point is that there is this tendency to believe that because Twitter is an international company and enjoy an outsized role in the country, that Twitter has become a global citizen entitled to enjoy rights all over the world. No, that does not happen. For instance, Twitter is not in China. And people say, Nigeria is becoming like China. And how I wish Nigeria is like China in discipline, in rigor, in economic development, in punishing corrupt people. It's not everything that China is doing that is bad. The truth of the matter is that Twitter has played more negative role in this country. And people are just looking at it from the economic point of view, as well as the freedom of expression thing. The fact is that the freedom of expression thing cannot be done through only one vehicle.
Yeah.
And then if you are talking about 40 million Nigerians on Twitter, which I don't believe, what is the percentage of that? 25%? So are you then saying the 75% should endure what 25% is imposing on them because they are on that network and then trying to inflame their country? Is that the argument?
Okay. Majid, I beg your pardon. I meant to say Modupe Ajibola. Would you like to comment?
Yes. You see, no one is arguing that Nigeria as a sovereign nation needs to have protection against this types of any type of infringement on its citizens. What we're saying is that you have to put the citizen first, your citizens first. Your citizens' interests are at stake here more than the government's interest, because the government needs the citizen to be secure, to have freedom of speech and access to a global economy.
Yeah.
The global economy has come to Nigeria through the likes of these platforms. Nigerians are
protecting the citizens.
I beg your pardon. Just one point I wanted to make because of what you said. You say the government needs to put the citizen first.
That's what it's doing.
The government, does government, are the citizens putting Nigeria first from the point of view of government in the tweets that are being made?
Yeah, but that's where I'm going to, that you're a government of all Nigeria, not a faction of Nigerians. If 20%, even if 40% of Nigerians are acting a fool, you don't shut down the whole Nigeria because of those people. You go deal with those people appropriately. And how do you deal with them? You negotiate, you work with whoever you need to work with to make sure the rest of the people that are not guilty of the same crime are not being penalized for that crime. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's the big difference here. You cannot take a big whoop to penalize a whole bunch of people for the actions of a few. You have to get creative and find ways to solve problems. And that's the issue people have with the way our government operates. They lack that creativity to go deal with these issues, and they're not investing in the young minds that can help them cultivate that creativity to go solve these problems. They just take a big one and say, boom. And that's really what we're concerned about, globally and locally, because the economy has been moving in the right direction for these young men because of the access to a global economy. But when you keep shutting down their limbs, every time something like this happens, you're really making it difficult for global companies to be interested in Nigeria.
All right, then. Majid, you know, with the maxim that, look, this freedom of speech is what it is. Actually, your freedom of speech shouldn't, it stops where somebody else's interests are beginning to be injured, and all of that. The way people express themselves freely on Twitter and other social media, and Twitter is what it is. It's as important as it is. Just about every president, every leader of government has an account from which they talk to the people. So you see the situation here. What do you make of the idea that it's a wrong emphasis to put everything on it's making so much for our people and all of that? How about the downside, which could be so dangerous?
The national security angle.
Yes, because as has been said, we're actually in a war right now, as we are. And in wartime, people are supposed to be rally around their country. What would you say to that aspect of the whole conversation?
Yes, in as much as we'll all have a right of freedom of expression, we should also understand the fact that national security in times like this, like you said, when in a situation of war. I read the article by the governor of Lagos State over the weekend where he said, we're in a war situation in Nigeria. And that goes to show that national security will override the rule of law. And although we need to be tactical about this, I'm sorry to say that the Attorney General of the Federation has not been too tactical in the way he handles some of these issues. I expect, the NCC should be the regulatory body here.
Thank you.
For telecoms and social media. in conjunction with the Ministry of Information through the National Broadcasting Commission. But we don't have the enabling laws to actually regulate this social media. The least, the best we could do is to tell the network the infrastructure operators, the telcos, to disconnect Nigerians. But then there are other platforms. That is through the VPNs. There's those who are using the OTTs. We have the virtual private networks and the over-the-table stuff. But then we must be cognizant of the fact that we should not allow our freedom of the so-called freedom of expression to burn down this country.
Indeed. Okay, Majid.
We are in a very, very fragile.
Yeah, Curtis.
There is this hypocritical attitude in some Nigerians, and that's the tendency to entertain multiple conflicting positions on the same issue. All right. Now he said, the interests of the citizens should override anything else, and that the government should act more in the interest of the people. Of course, government moving against Twitter is enacting against the people.
That was Modupe.
Because you must understand that the primary purpose of government is the security of lives and property, and so that is that is the major interest of the government, and that's why the government is acting to protect this country from further implosion. We are at war, and even when people talk about the rights of individuals, recently we had this argument about whether certain group of people are entitled to move around in the country wherever they want to go according to the Constitution. And constitutional lawyers told us that that right extends only to human beings and not animals. That why those people can move, the animals cannot move. And we agreed with them. Now, the rights that we're talking about here, freedom of expression, is guaranteed by the Constitution to Nigerian citizens. Is Twitter a citizen or a Nigerian entity to claim that right? Can a Nigerian company just go to America without registration, without any form of regulation, and begin to claim certain rights? And so, when we're in a war situation, or if Lagos, for instance, is on fire, and the government needs to declare a state of emergency to bring things under control, would the government then, federal government then come to Lagos and say, okay, Agege local government is not involved in the implosion, okay? And we have not seen any movement in Ekpe. So you declare a state of emergency in only from few local governments? No. That's why there's a responsibility and duty on us as citizens to also be responsible in how we respond to how we do things.
Indeed.
So that's part of the problem.
Modupe, if you're following the news in Nigeria, especially as it relates to IT aspects of our life, government has long been speaking about the need to regulate social media. In fact, there's a bill that they have in the National Assembly, and there are those who are saying that this is some sort of a way of pushing it with style, taking advantage of the situation, and so pushing that particular agenda to actually regulate that space, which a lot of Nigeria before then had been speaking against. Do you?
Yeah. The challenge Nigeria has is its identity is interwoven. Even its law is interwoven in so many laws across the globe. And it doesn't know whether it wants to be like China or be like the US or be like the EU, or it doesn't know what it wants to be like. And our government is equally confused on what we want to be as. So the moral of the story is this. If they're bad actors that we're concerned about, the president of a country cannot specifically speak ill of those of dealing with people in a manner of which it sounds like genocide. I think Twitter did our president a justice by removing that tweet, because it was antagonistic. It was actually it wasn't. I don't even believe he knew the implication of that statement when he made it, because he was trying to let them know we will deal with you. but you don't say it in a manner of which it sounds like something that happened years back, that people died and all that. That's the genesis of this.
All right. As you know, the presidential people have tried to explain and rationalize and defend not just what the president said,
I'm not
but
even talking about what I'm not even talking about.
But I have a caller on the line. Mazi Okoroafo, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, our guests, both Oscar and the street. Good morning, everybody. You see, there are two things we have to look into this issue. One, economic-wise, yes, the business, it is a risky game for Nigerian economy because Nigeria, we are among those who are talking about green economy. Now, if you come back to fake news level, we have discovered that most of this problem Nigeria is facing today is because of all this fake news which people circulate. Now, the question is this. I was expecting federal government, whether, I don't know which ministry, whether it's the Ministry of Technology or ICT, whatever you may call them, that right from the word go, the federal government created that ministry to regulate all these things, but they were not doing it. Now, it has now bounced back because all this fake news we see on Twitter, because if you see it very well, a minor thing will blow it open. When we blow it open, the heat it will generate will create more problem instead of bringing solution. But what our advice to federal government is that they should think twice. Let's review all this issue of ban or no ban, because as of Friday or Saturday, I was told that you saw it on the screen that Trump, Facebook has suspended Trump for 2 years till 2023. Check your record, you see it. Trump, the former president of America. Now, we are into digital. In as much as we are into digital, we have to move forward. We shouldn't be stagnant. We should be talking about to move according to the system that is going to. Now, you come back, if you look down, and you see that both COVID-19 and insecurity and security ended, that all these are going back, even health-wise. With all these things, you get some of the things you need through at least one can do to that. If you take this vision, it will help us. But the thing is, I'm just telling the government should think twice and let's see what to do now.
All right.
The last solution, suspending or not suspending, banning is not, it's not healthy. We have to move forward, follow the digital era, not to analog time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for calling in, because this thing has attracted the attention of the UN, the EU, the UK, US, and other countries. Now everybody is, and I think the federal government has the position that they don't quite understand.
No, apart from not understanding, there is a hypocritical slant to it. I give you an example here. When the US ordered the takeover of TikTok, a social media platform in the US, what did the European Union say? What did Canada say? What did all the human rights people?
There was silence generally.
Look, the fact is that.
But now, so why are they
countries
speaking up
are responsible because we're a third world country, and we have a permanent foreign ministry in Nigeria called Amnesty International. Look, I'm not saying they are entirely bad, but the fact is that they still cannot shake off, the colonial mentality that our government can take decisions that favors their people more. This is the problem.
Okay, Majid, as I said, the minister said indefinite suspension. Another official spoke about a temporary suspension. Do you expect that this matter will be resolved amicably? That it's not a permanent, they never said banning, but an indefinite suspension could go on forever, technically.
I believe that the room
It looks like we've lost the sound. Okay, we're fixing the sound, but Ugochukwu, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for calling in. Go ahead, please.
Well, to be honest with this issue, Twitter is a social media platform that is set up by a person. Now, you don't come to, I'm speaking as for the president, you don't come to a platform, violate the rules, then when you get the reaction of that, then you ban the application. That is, I don't know. Does it think we're in a military regime or what? This is bad for business. A lot of people do their businesses on Twitter.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
And a lot of
are you done?
No. I'm here. Hello?
Yeah. You just made your point, or is there more? Did you want to add more?
Yes.
Go ahead, please, but please keep it brief.
A lot of investors are on Twitter. Now, it is not just about the fake news and all. You need to look at the ripple effect of this thing. Do you think someone who wants to invest in Nigeria, looking at how fickle our government can just change a policy overnight?
Okay. You're talking about this will hurt investment. Thank you very much, Ugochukwu, for calling in, but we're really rushed for time.
We don't have the data on how it will hurt investment, but I can tell you, real investors who are interested in investing in Nigeria are going to invest in Nigeria, irrespective of whether Twitter is here or Twitter is not here. But what you must also understand, and this is the point I want Nigerians to take home, why does Twitter, a non-state actor, a private company in another country, why on earth would they have the power to censor people, right, on their network? And the government of Nigeria, with sovereignty, cannot censor that company in Nigeria.
Okay.
How does it make sense?
Ada in Jos, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Yoria. Good morning to your guests there. Ada from Jos. Mr. Yoria, I'm so burdened, with what is happening in Nigeria. It's not even about the ban on Twitter. For me, it's just to divert our attention. We have so many problems confronting us, like insecurity, which has led to so many killings on a daily basis. There's so much hunger in the land due to unemployment, so much poverty, and we are talking about ban on Twitter. My advice is that let the federal government find a way of resolving this issue amicably.
Yeah.
Whether we would like to hear this or not, at the end of the day, if we go by the way that this ban, we are going to lose out. Remember, we are a third world country. I heard your guest what he's saying there. If you look at it rationally, let's remove sentiment. We are the ones to lose out. If the international community decide to back out or not, what are we going to do? Let's be rational when we are talking about these things. Let's not be sentimental. Federal government should do something and address issues the way it is. What's the difference between the way they handled Trump? Why did Trump go and close it down because of one person's tweet, because of his tweet? It's because they have strong institutions. We don't have strong institutions. That is why it is happening in Nigeria. That's the problem. God bless this country. Let's not give up on this country. Every day people are dying. I don't know whether it really strikes anybody.
All right then.
Not natural death. Just a headsman kill somebody. This one, what the hell is going on in this country?
Okay, Ada. Thank you very much for calling in. Now, even beyond Twitter, talking about social media generally, right now there's tension in the air as a result of social media, in the sense that all sorts of messages that the only thing I can refer to them as is scaremongering. You get the
purveyor of fake news.
Yes.
And then you must also see, there's a difference between what happened with Trump and what happened in Nigeria. Don't forget that Twitter is an American company. It's governed by certain specific acts or regulations in America, all right? Those regulations do not allow the President of America to do that to Twitter. We don't have, Twitter is not a Nigerian company. We have our regulations, which we think they will have to comply with if they want to do business here. Okay. That's the difference.
Okay. Modupe, just to end up now, did you have any last words that you wanted to add? Because I was making the comment that social media generally, WhatsApp is a closed network, all sorts of scaremongering messages are going on. There's the threat of they're going to attack, they're waiting for June 12, scaremongering, and I don't know, the government's quest for regulation of the media. Do you think that's the way forward?
I don't think so, because I think the government may lose an opportunity to actually see what's going on and to be able to isolate the bad actors.
I think it's an excellent comment. I'm going to have to leave it there. I want to thank you very much for making time for us this morning, all the way from Texas. That's where you're based. Modupe Ajibola, technology expert and software engineer. Now, swinging to you, Majid, on the way out, your bullet point comment.
Yes, I think we need to strengthen our institutions more. I'm just getting a breaking news now that NDC is threatening to sanction TV, radio stations, and other entities using Twitter to broadcast. So we need to strengthen further our enabling institutions, our enabling laws.
This is a story that is clearly developing. Thank you very much, Majid Jamil, Executive Editor, Upshot Reports. Thank you very much for making time for us this morning. And Curtis, as you heard, government is not relenting, that we've got to sort this out once and for all?
Well, I think those who have elected have a responsibility to govern the country.
Okay.
And if government makes a policy, until it's set aside, we expect that the institutions in the country should obey that policy. And those, like I've said to some people, those who are angry with the ban or suspension of Twitter can go to court and file a suit against the government as a class action to say this is an infringement on their right to expression.
I hear you. We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Curtis Adigba, lawyer and political consultant. As indeed, we thank Majid Jami, executive editor of Upshot Media, and Modupe Ajibola, who joined us from Texas via Zoom, technology expert and software engineer. We're going to keep an eye on this story. It's a developing story, and we're going to end the program here. But God willing, we'll see you tomorrow with a fresh edition. I am Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.
So, all right.